today's first reading, Paul reminds the Corinthians that they should stay awake and sensitive to the call of the Lord, who has called them to such greatness by virtue of their baptism. And in the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus himself says to his disciples that they too need to stay awake. So it's about the wakefulness. It's about being conscious of what's happening and aware. Since having a little pet, most of you know that I have a little dog, and when you begin to live closely to a little pet, a little animal, you realize how much more alert they are than we are as human beings. At least most human beings are not as alert as their pets. They hear things, they see things, they look for things, they sniff things out that we, for one reason or another, don't notice or we don't pay attention to anymore. Interestingly enough, one of the things that I've noticed is that as your pet becomes more accustomed to your house and the noises and the smells and all that sort of thing that are going on in its environment, it's not quite as sensitive as it was before. Because you compare your own domesticated pet to the little animals that are outside, and you watch them and you see that they are always alert. The little rabbits that may appear out in your backyard or whatever, they're constantly alert to a new noise, to a new smell. They're constantly alert to danger. They have to be. They have no big being there to protect them. And so they have to be constantly alert to danger. But they're also constantly alert to opportunity. They have to find their own food. It's not going to appear in a little bowl. So they have to be constantly looking and aware of their environment so that they can find new opportunities for food and encounter with other animals of their own species and so forth. So even there you see a greater level of alertness. For us as human beings, it's if our environment becomes predictable to us, if our house basically seems like a safe place, and the people that we're with seem like good people, and it's a nice neighborhood, there's not a lot going on there, we become less alert than if we're living in a place that might possibly be dangerous or where we're going to have to constantly notice what's going on. And so it becomes harder when we become used to something. When the place that we're in, the environment that we're in becomes predictable, then we pay less attention to it. As a matter of fact, it becomes harder and harder for us to be conscious. Let me give you just one example. If you drive the same route every day in your car, you pass by the same things, and you see the same things around you. Or even if you walk to some place every day, using the same route all the time, you will find, probably as I do, that some days you'll end up at the end of your journey and say, I don't even remember going there. Do you ever have that happen? You get there and say, my God, I drove all that way down to Auburn. I do it every Thursday after Mass. And so today I don't even remember where I was. I don't know how I got here. And so we human beings are, particularly those of us who live in a fairly protected and a predictable environment, have to find all these ways to try to wake ourselves up. So we keep buying more and more Dunkin' coffee or Tim Hortons coffee to try to keep ourselves alert and awake because we don't expect too much. That's the great danger in our dealing with God. And Jesus knows that as well. The faithful and prudent servant whom the master has set over the household. Certainly, Jesus wants to be alert to the fact that at an unpredictable time, he's coming again in glory for the final judgment. But there are more things involved in our relationship relationship with God and just being alert for Jesus' second coming. What about Jesus coming today? What about God's call today? Do we become so accustomed to the presence of God that we tend to think and to act as if God ceases to exist for long periods of time during our life? That we don't have a sensitivity, an awareness, a consciousness, that God is with us at every moment. And as a result of that, that it would be not only to our benefit, but to benefit God's work if we were constantly listening to the little signs of God's presence. If we were expecting his call at unpredictable moments. Yes, Lord, your servant is alert and listening. What can I do now? Or we are alert to the presence of God, so at a moment when we have a little question, we turn to him in prayer. We ask for his help and for his assistance. It is so easy for us to become accustomed to God that we don't even pay attention to God anymore. Just as people living together can become so accustomed to the presence of the members of their own family, they don't even pay attention to them anymore. And that's sad, but it's true. So Jesus may be saying more to us that we need to be alert, not only for his coming at that unpredictable hour at the end of time, or at the end of the age, as Scripture calls it, but to those unpredictable moments when he just leans over and whispers in our ear, or calls us to be alert to something that may be dangerous, but also to something that may be a tremendous opportunity to grow in the holiness, love of God, and as good and faithful servants day by day in his household.